what are some twin flame dangers? Some risks, some things to be careful about or just to consider. There are a few. Okay. The first one, let's start with the scariest one, and that is that you meet somebody who you think is your twin flame, but they're actually not your twin flame. And so what happens with this is obviously you have these expectations, you have these ideas, this concept of how things are supposed to go. But if they're not your twin flame, then those things probably won't happen. It probably won't go how you think it's going to go. And that can be really difficult. In fact, that can be very painful, but very challenging. And so you could be trying to make things work. You could be waiting for this person who you think is your twin flame, but they're actually not. And, you could potentially spend years waiting for this person to come around, and they never do. So it's quite important to really feel into, because only you know the true answer. You need to really try and feel into, deep down in your intuition, are they actually your twin flame? This person that you might be fixating on. Because in our experience, you know, you will know. And it needs to come from a place of non-desperation. If you're desperate, if you're really craving it, then the chances are you're going to project those ideas onto, almost the first person you see, or the first person who matches a few criteria, who sounds or seems like they make sense as a twin flame. You're going to kind of project and latch onto them and say, oh, well, it must be them. But if it's coming from a place of desperation, if you feel like you desperately need a relationship and your twin flame and so on, then it's going to cloud your judgment. You're not going to see clearly, and you're not going to feel clearly whether they are actually your twin flame or not. When me and Julia met, neither of us were looking for a relationship. In fact, we had both just recently left a relationship. And so we weren't really craving or searching for anything. We were just being ourselves in an authentic way. And, that's ultimately the energy that brought us together, that let us, get together and unite and so on. So it can't come from a desperate place. It needs to come from a natural, authentic place. You need to unite with yourself before you can unite with your twin flame. You need to actually love yourself and your life and live a life that you actually love. Not just, waiting and saying everything will be okay once I get my twin flame, and you spend all day watching these tarot pick a card videos, and you obsess over it, and you desperately cling to any sign or any hint of your twin flame coming into your life. And so let's say you're dating and you have this energy, you might meet somebody who you vibe with, things are okay, you're attracted to them and seems fine, right? But if you're just trying to latch onto them and trying to tick it off, right? Yes, tick, I found my twin flame. That's going to trip you up. You're going to get into some trouble with that. You're going to latch onto somebody who you think is your twin flame, but they're actually not. And in the same way, it is also very common, okay, for people, usually it's the feminine aspect of the twin flame, the girl, the woman, to latch onto somebody who you have an intense sexual connection with, but it's not a twin flame connection. And because there's this sexual energy and this attraction, it's easy to mistake that for a twin flame connection, because you think, well, surely because they're my twin flame, that explains why I feel this strongly about them, when really it's just chemistry, which is also a thing. Maybe they're a soulmate, or maybe they're a potential partner or a karmic partner, who knows, right? But the biggest tell usually is that when you actually meet or contact each other, you will both feel, with similar intensity, you will both feel that this is different. It won't just be, the girl feels it and the guy is just, dating 20 women, not texting you back, going on, doing his thing. That's less common. And so in that situation, it's more likely that it's just chemistry. It's just attraction, intense sexual attraction. And there's nothing wrong with that. But usually the biggest sign is that you will both, when you meet or when you contact each other for the first time, you will both feel the same thing, the same intensity, the same familiarity, the same feeling of I know this person, and this is different to everything else. This is, it's the same feeling you would get if you run into like a childhood friend that you haven't seen in 20 years. The same feeling of coming home, or like familiarity. If you don't both feel that, just pay attention to that. I can't say one way or the other, and we definitely don't do any confirmations or, channeled, are they my twin flame confirmation stuff. Like, we don't do any of that, because really you're the person who is best equipped to know, but you need to actually have the best tools. You need to actually have the best chance of being able to tell. And that's one of the ways you can do it. You can just think about these things. I'm just planting seeds here. When you met, was it a mutual thing? Or were you the one to latch onto them and to try and project onto them ideas about, they're my twin flame, blah, blah, blah. When me and Julia met, the funny thing is I actually didn't know what twin flames even were. I didn't know about this stuff. All I knew, and I explained this very concisely to Julia, all I knew is we met and I thought, wow, you seem really familiar. Like, it genuinely feels like I got, goosebumps and shivers when I started to realize this. Like, you seem genuinely familiar, like we've known each other for years and years and years and years. Why is that? Right? And I also felt this sense of that I could just completely be myself, and that it was literally like talking to a version of me in a different body. And so this is a strong sign, I think, that they are likely to be your twin flame, because that familiarity and that mirroring, that feeling, I felt that and said that before I even knew what a twin flame was, and I found out that that actually makes a lot of sense. Now I understand, like, the terminology, why it feels like that. But the danger, the risk, is that sometimes people can find out about the twin flame idea before they've actually met their twin flame, and so then they're looking for things to fit into the twin flame model. Then, because with me it was the other way around. Like, I had the experience, described the experience, and then found the twin flame thing and said, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That describes exactly what I experienced without knowing what it was. Whereas a lot of people do it the other way around, where they first hear about the twin flame thing, and then they meet someone, and then they think, maybe they're my twin flame. Does it feel familiar? Yeah, maybe it does. Yeah, I guess it does. And they kind of convince themselves. They kind of force a person to fit into their concept of what it should be, because they want the twin flame. But again, this is coming from a desperate energy. This is coming from I want or I need my twin flame, versus the playful, authentic, curious, soft version, which is I'm not looking for anything. I don't need anything right now. But this connection feels very familiar and very intense, and I can't deny that. It's slightly different, very different actually. So let me know in the comments which one of those resonates the most with you, or like what describes your situation. And by the way, we do have a bunch of stuff in the description. Links to things, resources, courses, other videos, things like that. So check out those, and hopefully this helped.